Hello, my loves. Just give me 1 second and we will get started for this impromptu mid-month energy update. If you're catching the replay, please hashtag it replay and tell me where you're watching from. Tell me how you're feeling, how you doing. Let me make sure I'm live. All right. Okay, hello, my loves. This is a impromptu mid-month energy update for May. I just want to highlight a little bit of what we talked about in the original energy update for May and just kind of bring in a refresher, kind of see how everybody's feeling, what everybody's been experiencing. It's not going to be one thing that we experience. Not everybody is going to experience the exact same thing. But I do want to share what my experience has been and what I feel for the collective that I'm tuning into, and let you guys know that you're not alone. And if it resonates with you, it really helps to bring peace, right? So when we feel that connection, like, oh, this is something that's happening to a lot of people, it's not just me, we kind of like our shoulders kind of drop and we stop the worry, right? Because no matter how long you've been on this journey, there's a little aspect of you that worries when you have body pains, or when the mind starts ramping up again and you think, am I delusional, am I going crazy, I thought I healed this, all of those stories, right? All of that stuff comes back. And so I just want to kind of touch and do a little refresher for mid-month May and kind of go over a little bit of what we did in the beginning, and kind of bring in any new details that might show up. So for those of you who are brand new to me, who are just finding me, I'm Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multi-dimensional channel, teacher, and healer. And I'm really here to help you come into harmony with your soul's journey. And that is a balance between living in a physical, dense reality on Earth and balancing that with the quantum consciousness of living in totality, of understanding that there's more than just this human experience, right? There's more than just what we feel. It is a balance of both worlds and helping you live in that beautiful space, what I call living in totality, what the guides call living in totality. So as I talked about on May's energy update, and please feel free to drop any questions that you have, that you may be experiencing, that you have been experiencing, or just, what you've been going through. That way people can see and relate. Everyone has a little bit of a different perspective or perception of what's going on within them. And it's good to share. So what I talked about on the original May energy update was this was the point of no return. And I mentioned today's date, the 18th. And the reason why I want to kind of address why I gave a date. I don't normally give dates, and it's just a marker, just like astrology and time, it's just a marker for experience. But the reason why I said the 18th is because it's 3 days after the full moon lunar eclipse. And with any moon, full or new, the 3 days prior and the 3 days after are the most potent, and kind of closes out those activations so that the integration can begin. And I also talked about in the month of May where this was the time that the masks were going to drop. Meaning you can try, but it's going to create suffering. You can no longer pretend to be something that you're not. You can no longer wear a mask, whether that mask is to keep you safe or defend yourself, or to try to be something for somebody else. Those masks have to go away. We are stepping into a level of truth in the consciousness that is very, very transparent. So if you're trying to wear a mask, if you're trying to be something that you're not, and sometimes we do this subconsciously or even unconsciously because, again, it's programming, right? It's not who you really are. And that is why the first 2 weeks of May I said was going to be leading up to that eclipse was going to be us revisiting or seeing the remnants of programs and patterns that have not been serving us, where we're wearing a mask, where we're trying to be something that we're not, where we're trying to please and adapt and change our being to be accepted or to avoid conflict or whatever the case may be. We were going to see the remnants of that, and it was going to have to go through a death experience where we're literally finding the remnants of who we used to be or who we were programmed to be, even. That is not our truth. That is not authentically who we are. And I know for me personally, I had remnants of things that I swear to God, I was like, I thought I integrated all of this. And I found little tiny pieces here and there of old programs and patterns. And I kind of shared a little bit about that on my podcast, but it was an interesting experience to have that energy come up. And I personally had to jump start the movement of that energy. I had to get very physical and move my body so that I could get the energy to move because it really didn't want to move. And we are in a frequency war. It's pretty common knowledge, no matter where you are in your journey, that we're going through a frequency war. And so when you get stagnant in those old stories, when you get caught up in the loops of the mind, it can take you down quite easily, right? Because that's what a frequency war is. It's taking fear and trying to control you and get you stuck in those old patterns and programs and believing you're not worthy, or believing that you're all these things that you were programmed to be that you are not, while simultaneously receiving the higher knowing that soul calling that you are so much more, that you doubt, because of those old programs, right? I have said multiple times, as someone who does parts work, we are fragmented a lot as human beings. And the fragments create these through trauma, right? These ego personalities, protector personalities. And the ego protector personalities protect the inner children that have gone through trauma. So how does that work? The ego goes through the algorithm of the past to say, when was she or he experienced pain, discomfort, trauma? And then it projects that into whatever you're experiencing or whatever you're about to experience, and compares it and say, is this similar energy? It's not the experience. The experience, the tangible thing, the tangible relationship, the tangible experience you're having is never the same, but the energy is. And so the ego protector personality steps in front of you, the inner child, and says, we're going to keep you safe, even though it's not really needed. But that's what happens when we're fragmented, when we have pushed a part of ourselves away from ourselves, when we are in avoiding, or when we are deflecting, or when we are disassociating, or when we're distracting because we don't want to perpetuate, we don't like conflict, so we avoid the situation, or we repress it, or we justify it. Like we that is not something we're going to be able to do anymore without creating undue suffering onto ourselves. We have to be authentic. And something that I believe I mentioned, and I'm sure I've mentioned 100 times, but I'm going to mention it again, is we are now in this energy of, you have to face what's in front of you right now. It's going to be really difficult to plan ahead. And it almost kind of, for me, it takes the pressure off. It says, I don't have to be reading the energy of the future. I don't have to be always scanning my environment. I don't have to always be planning or bracing for impact or trying to make sure that I'm safe. I know that I'm safe internally, even if I don't feel it, right? My consciousness knows that that's just a muscle memory inside my body based upon trauma and traumatic experience. So what's telling us is you don't need to do that anymore. You only have to deal with what's in front of you right now in the present moment. The present moment is this wormhole where you're literally standing in an opening saying what wants to come in can and what needs to go can go. You're literally standing in a doorway when you are in the present moment. Right? The same way I do this with ascension, right? We are our density is always trying to ascend towards the light. The light is always trying to descend. So this is always happening. We want to get to that equilibrium, that integration point where we're standing in the center of both worlds, aka heart space, the center. Love and judgment don't exist simultaneously. They're different. Neutrality is different. But doesn't that kind of take the pressure off, knowing that you just have to be present, and if what's coming to be in front of you in that moment is to plan ahead, then that's what's in front of you to do. But we have to just be present, and we have to be here right now. And whatever density is coming up to be worked through, whatever mask is showing up, whatever alter ego, whatever inner child, whatever fragment is showing itself through the dialogue inside of your mind, it's a gift. May not always feel great, but all you are required to do, for those who have read my book, The Holy Grail, for those of you who have been through my courses and worked with me privately, you know, the 4 frequencies just simplifies it, right? I see you, I hear you, you are safe, I love you anyway. I see you, observe your thoughts. Observe, don't absorb, observe, witness them. Be curious about them. What's the story coming up? What's the programming? If you have an idea and then the doubt comes in, oh, nobody will buy that, nobody will want that, nobody will like you, whatever it is, observe it. Be like, I wonder where that came from. Is that really what I want? Is this how I really want to run my life? Is that the program, the software I want to run? I hear you. I hear you is compassion, it's grace, it's surrender. It's hearing that that part of you believes that that is its truth, that it's not worthy, that it's not enough. It's hearing it through compassion. It's listening, not deflecting, not trying to affirm the opposite on top of it. It's simply listening and holding that space for yourself. You are safe. You are safe to feel the emotion. You are safe to feel the sensations. I teach my students, don't label it an emotion. And all emotions are is your body's alert system saying, hey, something, it's feedback, right? It's your body's feedback system. It's giving you feedback about what it's experiencing or what it's hearing. It's not good or bad. So take away the label of emotion, anger, sadness, joy, excitement, whatever it is, peace, resentment, grief. Take away the label. Feel the sensation in the body. Be curious about the sensation as if you were asking your child to describe to you what they are feeling when they don't feel well. What are those sensations? That allows you to get into the middle of the emotion where you are able to feel it in its totality. And when you feel it, you heal it literally, as made famous by Louise Hay. It's a little biohack, exploring the sensations. I go really deep into that in the energy matrix. And then I love you anyway. It's loving yourself, even though you may feel like you're dying. And I know many, 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 many people went through a massive death experience over the last couple of months. I know for me, it was in December. I know some of you just went through it, because this is the point of no return. This is the point of where we have to go through that death of versions of us that are no longer us. Death of the old program. But here is an interesting thing that I want to drop in. A lot of times we don't let go of that programming of unworthiness, not enough, shame, guilt, whatever it is, whatever the program is that was installed by your caregivers as you were a child. A lot of times we don't want to let go of that identity because we're afraid if we do, we will lose the connection with that caregiver. If I let go of my unworthiness, then I have to let go of my mother. It's a very deep, unconscious program that it's like Stockholm Syndrome. Our caregivers did the very best they could to love us how they knew how to. The way that they showed us love wasn't always the best, right? My parents, my father and stepmother showed me love by, I received love if I did everything that they wanted. If I was able to be ahead of them, right? And take care of everything and meet their needs and please them, make them happy, make their life easier. If I did something, it was very conditional, then I received something. And when I didn't, when I made the world about me, when I took care of me, I didn't receive it. That is a program that is carried through my life of where I have to do something in order to get anything. I have to overgive. It's the only way. Nobody's just going to love me. No one's just going to give to me. No one's just going to support me. I have to give and give and give and give and give, and it will never be enough. I'll never get a break. That is a program that was attached to my caregivers. So if I let go of that, then it's like that was my only connection to them loving me. But that's actually not true. It's a program that keeps us holding on, even if it's just one little thread, holding on to that program. And so we have to realize that when we let that die, we're not saying that that relationship isn't dying. We won't lose their love. It doesn't mean that they didn't love us, right? It just means that that's no longer who we are. It's no longer who they are. They were just doing the best they could with what they knew how to do. And oftentimes it's really not what it's supposed to be, right? But I mean, you can't go back. Forgiveness is giving up hope that the past could be any different. Who are you right now? Who do you want to be? Who does your soul say it is? Tomorrow we begin the birthing experience. This is the integration part of this. The 2 weeks after eclipse season, the first round of eclipse season, I should say, because we'll go through another one. This is the integration. Now, these activations that happen during the eclipse will play out over the next 18 months. Sometimes even longer than that, right? So there'll be little things that happen. So there was an energetic activation within that. And those things, the blessings, that we don't always sometimes think as blessings, right? Complete 180 pivots in our life. everything changing, things falling away, new opportunities coming in, new gifts opening up, new relationships coming in. All of those are blessings. None of those are labeled one's better than the other. Those are all blessings. All those activations will play out, right, over the next 18 months. But over the next 2 weeks, we go through the integration, meaning who you were is gone. And if you keep trying to be who you were, and you keep trying to put that old mask on, and you keep trying to pretend that you're something that you're not, you keep pretending to be in a state of being that you're not, you keep doing anything other than being authentically you, there will come with consequences of undue suffering. This is when we get in our own way. And it's not to beat yourself up. It's not to say someone's better or less than another. We're all in this together. I don't care how evolved you are, how aware you are. We're all in this together. But you can create suffering for yourself. So when it happens, when you're like, why is my life so effing chaotic right now? Why is nothing working? Who are you trying to be? Can you just be who you are right now? Can you just be your truth and not give two F's what anyone else thinks of you? What you think other people think of you is actually your judgment of yourself. You're just judging yourself. And if you're judging yourself, it's going to be mirrored back to you through judgment of others. And if you're judging others, again, it's usually the same thing you're judging yourself for. You judge someone because they're overweight, you have body image issues. You're judging someone because they have money, you have financial issues or financial beliefs. You're judging someone's relationships. Look at that judgment. Judgment, jealousy, just two sides of the same coin. What is your truth? What is authentically you? Can you be that? Again, anything less than you being your authentic truth is going to disrupt your life. Just will. It doesn't mean it's going to be catastrophic, but it's going to give you immediate feedback, because the energy that we are in now, these new frequencies, I was just getting ready to post frequency cloud pictures today, because I can always tell when we have new frequencies because there's a pattern that comes in with the clouds. And yesterday evening, actually. So actually, let me back up. There's an interesting phenomenon that happened yesterday. And I don't know if anybody else experienced it. Actually, I know a lot of people experienced, because I saw it showing up online. I think it even made the news, which is pretty cool. But there was a legit bridge in the sky. There was these clouds, and there was this shooting light that was going between clouds. It's like a few different colors, and it was caught on camera by a lot of people. And around that time, I think it was, I don't know, I'm Central Time right now, so somewhere between 1 and 2 p.m., somewhere in there, it could, in that corridor, I felt a shift. Like something, it was like, whoa, something's here, right? It was an energetic shift. And then later that evening, I started feeling gamma rays coming in. And then when that happens that late, I'm usually up most of the night. And I was up till about 2 a.m. because I'm just laying in bed going, because when I'm someone who anchors energy, right? So I'm constantly running energy through me. That's why I'm constantly drinking fluid, because it's a conductor. I'm constantly moving. It's why I wear certain jewelry, because it helps take some of the load off of me. But last night we had gamma rays coming in, preparing us for this new birthing experience. So if you guys woke up with an energy hangover, or if you were blissed out last night, or if you got knocked out, because that when the energy gets high, sometimes it's going to affect people differently. So if you can't sustain the frequency that's coming in, it will knock you out. If you can, you're probably going like this in the middle of the night going, why am I wide awake? So if anybody saw the phenomenon, or if anybody had those experiences yesterday, that's what it was. But we begin the birthing and integration phase tonight, tomorrow, in that fluid of time. And this is when we have to start behaving and acting our truth. Your truth is you are love. You are abundant. You are enough. You are worthy. You are beautiful. You are perfect, just as you are. But when you have those moments, you got to feel those emotions. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be transparent with yourself. You have to say, this is what I'm temporarily experiencing in my life, because everything is temporary. The only thing that's constant is change. So utilize those frequencies. If you need to understand the purification process that I'm speaking of, get my book. It's on Amazon. Read it. Learn it. It's very simple. But when you call it out like that, when you see it and you call it out, you take away its power. In that moment, you are taking responsibility, which is the only thing that moves us out of the victim energy, is owning it. Man, I feel like shit right now. I got a lot of heavy shit coming up. I got a lot of stories in my mind. Shoot, I was hiking. And I'm hiking in the most beautiful place on a river, and literally lost in the woods, off the trail. And I'm like, shit, my mind is super loud today. In like a joking manner, because I can make light of it. But I called it out. I was like, wow, we got a lot of aspects having a party up in here. And I'm just listening and observing. I'm not taking it personal. I'm not believing everything I hear. I'm witnessing it, observing it, noticing the sensations that come with it as I'm moving my body. This is the work. And then you have to take the actions based upon your soul's truth, your authentic truth, not based upon the fragmented stories and versions of you that are no longer your truth. This is where we are. This is the point of no return. Collectively, I'm going to be super honest with you guys. I am so not in the matrix of Earth anymore. Call it 3D if you want. I don't care. 4D, because the Earth isn't even in 3D anymore. It's in the fourth dimension. Again, we label them. We're the ones who put the numbers, right? But Earth itself is in a fourth dimensional field. But I don't play in the human frequencies anymore. I just don't. So I don't know what's going on in the world. I haven't even tuned in. But I can say with certainty, whether it's broadcasted or not, there's going to be a lot of truth revealed in a way that it's going to go to another level. Like, we've had a lot of truth revealed over the last 2 years. We've had a lot of disclosure. It's about to go up a few notches. And they may start using fear, right? Fear of alien invasions, or fear of this or fear of that. They may start ramping things up again, trying to be a distraction. You might find we might have more distractions in the collective. Things that end up taking the media's attention, that grab your heart, that's a drama story, something for you to focus on, something to give your energy to, so you don't notice what's happening over here. They always put the truth out. They always have. It's always been right in front of you. And the reason why they do that is so that when people say something about it, will label them a conspiracy theorist, because they'll be like, well, why would they put it out there? The perfect example is the water case, the Aaron Brockovich case. That's the perfect example of why they do it. Because if they put it out there, they can't say that they lied. They can't say they didn't tell you. But they're going to put on a big ass show and distraction and make it so that you don't think it's a big deal until it is. The truth has always been in plain sight, and it always will be, except now it's going to get ridiculously clear, and it's going to get ridiculously hard for them to put on a good show, a good distraction. because we're going to see through it. More people are going to see through it. There's going to be some other things, but we'll take it one moment at a time. Your truth is your truth. Nobody can take that from you. Each and every one of us is special and unique. It doesn't make us better or less than anyone else, right? But nobody is you. Nobody is me. So the judgment has to go. The judgment of what you're feeling, the judgment of where you are, the judgment of who you are, the judgment of the decisions that you've made that have led to where you are today. A lot of self-forgiveness. So over the next 2 weeks, do the work. Don't let all of the healing that you have done, all the trauma work, all the awareness work, all the work that you've done on yourself for however long it's been, don't let it be for nothing. It's time for you to behave and demonstrate your authentic truth without taking anything personally. The voices in your head or the reflections of the unconscious aspects of you that are being mirrored back to you. When someone judges you, when someone calls you out, when someone says something in your mind, just say thank you. Oh, this is a mirror of something. Do I believe what they said? Or am I allowing something, right? You have to get into inquiry. You have to question everything. Don't question me. Doesn't matter who I channel. I'm not trying to replace your truth. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, it's not for you. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. Just means that it's not right for you. So if someone judges you and you feel pain, you feel hurt, that is your body's feedback system saying, this is not for you. It's not your truth. So when those stories in your head do the same thing, remember that. Remember that. Do the work. Observe, feel, forgive. That's it. That's all you have to do. Love yourself through it. Remember, you teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. Okay. And if you want to go back and listen to the original May energy update, there'll probably be more good stuff for you. Oh yeah, Corey on Facebook is mentioning that we do have a Facebook. There is a book club on Facebook for my book for anybody who is reading it. I actually will be coming in a few times during, I don't know when. They'll let me know when they want me to come in and doing a Q&A. So they're in there talking about and working together with the book. So if anybody is also reading the book and wants to be supported and have a community around you, you can just search for the Holy Grail Book Club on Facebook. Let's see if there's anything. How can I tune into the fourth dimension? If you're on Earth, you are standing in the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is a bridge. It's very malleable. It allows you to experience higher consciousness while also feeling and residing still in the density, the carbon density of this experience. It's a very malleable place. So you're in it. How can you tune into it? You're actually in it. The only play, if anyone says you're, if you hear someone say, oh, 3D, these are levels of consciousness, you guys, right? They are dimensional planes. We're not going to do that teaching today, but there's dimensional planes of existence, but then there's also dimensional levels of consciousness. So if someone's in a third dimensional consciousness, all that means is they're living in victim. They're living in the egoic, wounded aspects of themselves. When you're in fourth dimension, consciousness, you're having both. You're beginning to experience your higher self, and you're beginning to experience these bigger awarenesses, but you're also still running the third dimensional programs, the victim consciousness. So you're kind of going back and forth. And when you get into a fifth dimensional consciousness, you usually access that fifth dimensional consciousness and above in meditation, right? Or mindfulness. So meditation isn't just sitting still in Buddha pose. It's when you're present, right? When you're present and aware. And when you're present and aware, you're in that neutral state. You're not in judgment. There's zero judgment. There's zero fear. You want to know what fifth dimensional consciousness and above feels like? That's it. Judgment and love can't exist simultaneously. Right? I mean, they do, obviously, because we're on Earth where there's two poles. There's a cause and effect. There's polarity, duality. But when you are living in a fifth dimensional consciousness, you don't judge what's happening around you. You don't, I've used this example a lot of times, but a long time ago, there was a story in California where this family had, 10, 12 kids, a lot of children. And they were found half naked, chained to sinks, and they were malnutritioned, and they were treated very, very poorly. And I remember at the time I was married still, and I was in the pantry. I had a walk-in pantry, and my husband at the time loved to watch the 6 o'clock news. He was obsessed with Ginger Z, I think her name is. Loved watching the evening news. And so it would be running in the background, and the story came on, and he's like, and these parents were caught, right? And the kids were saved, but the parents were on trial. And he said, I hope that they torture the kids, or torture the parents the way that these parents tortured the kids. My first thought was not that. My first thought was, what happened to those parents? What happened to those parents that made them feel so powerless that they needed to have that type of power over their children and take their children's raw power? What happened to them? I had immediate compassion for the perpetrator. I had compassion for the kids as well. But you see, there wasn't a judgment there. There's no eye for an eye. That doesn't get you anywhere. An eye for an eye keeps you cycling around the same damn programs that we go through collectively. Look at it. You see how the styles come back, the 60s, the 70s, the 90s, whatever the styles, they come back, right? It's a pattern. We experience segregation, and we experience, what's the word for it? It's not even racism. It's just like there's always something or someone who is being treated poorly or ostracized or being made a big deal of, right? So we go through these patterns, wars, depressions. We go through the pattern. If you look back in history, it's there. We just keep repeating it. Why? Because we do this eye for an eye. We have to have this thing instead of just releasing judgment and going, that's interesting that that's coming up again. I wonder what it's trying to show me. How can I be the change? How can I be different? Because the only way to break the pattern is to be the change. You can't look back at the news and go, I will live and be happy when the world is in a much better place. When this happens. No, you have to demonstrate. The collective in the world is a reflection of each of us individually and what you do behind closed doors when nobody's watching. So the way that you speak, think, act behind closed doors when nobody's watching still affects what's happening in the world, whether you think so or not, because that's just universal law. So if you don't like what you see in the world, you don't like what you see in a relationship, you don't like what you see in your own reality, you have to be that change. You have to say, how would I like it to be different? And how can I demonstrate that? That's what it means to live in non-judgment. That's what it means to be the creator of your reality, is to take responsibility and be that change. I always say this, children do not listen. Children learn through observation and emulation. We are all just inner children walking around in adult suits. That's all it is. You want your children to listen? Show them. Show them how to behave. Show them how to process their emotions. Show them. Be the example. It works the same with everything else. I'm not doing readings. I rarely ever do free readings anymore, you guys. If I do, it'll be in my Facebook group. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions. So I hope that this update brought you an understanding of kind of where we are right now. And I don't want you to fear the words, the point of no return, but it is a point of no return. And I think every moment really, in a way, is a point of no return because you can't go back to it, right? The only thing you can change from the past is the story that's attached to it. You can't change the events. You can't rewrite the history. You can only extract the wisdom of what you would do differently and allow that to be the foundation of what you step upon moving forward and letting go of the meaning. So as we enter into this, as we exit this point of no return, right? As we step into this new timeline, we step into these new frequencies that are here, and we start to birth who we are. Get curious, get to know who you are. I posted a video on TikTok that we are constantly discovering who we are, getting to know who we are isn't a one-time thing. We are constantly getting to know ourselves. We're constantly dating ourselves, right? Because you can only ever meet yourself where you are, and you're always changing. If the only thing constant is change, you're always getting to know who you are because you're always going to be something a little bit different. So self-discovery is a lifelong journey on this human spiral. So get curious about who you want to be, who you are now, what feels aligned to you, and let go. And by let go, that means let go of control of trying to be something that you think you're supposed to be, because you're not that. Let it die. It's not dying. It's coming home. We see a death and rebirth because the death, let me tell you, I personally know a handful of people that went through a major death of themselves over the last 2 weeks. And I want to applaud you because that shit ain't easy. And it feels like death. And some people will even have suicidal thoughts because it feels that fucking real. Excuse my language, but it does. But I want to applaud you because, but I also want to tell you, it's not really a death. So if you ever have that feeling, like you're dying and you're like, I can't do this anymore, it's so hard, I want to exit this game. If you can just love yourself anyway, if you can just say, I'm not really dying, I'm going home to my heart space. Integration is coming into union with all of yourself, even the parts that you have judged. So you're not actually dying. Even though it feels like it, you're just going home. That part of you is going home into your heart. It's going to become the foundation The same way your ancestors laid one, whether it was good or not, they laid a foundation, right? Same thing. There is no death. There is no birth. We're just constantly changing form. Constantly changing form. So allow yourself to change form. Be curious. Get to know yourself. Be kind to yourself. And help yourself by no longer choosing to pick up that old mask or to choose to be something that you really aren't, just to make someone else happy or just to avoid conflict or just because you have to pretend that you got it all together. Right? I was me. I was strong woman syndrome. I got it all together. Everyone was like, "You're so strong. Nothing ever affects you." Well, inside, I was dying. But nobody could see that. I had to wear that mask. Don't do that. We can't do that no more. And if you do, and then you wonder why your life is a shit show, just take a break and be like, I'm allowing an old version of me to run my reality, and that's not going to work for me. So take ownership, take responsibility, and go, okay, I picked up the old mask and I can't do it again because this is what happens. Be honest with yourself, be authentic. And remember that nobody's you, nobody's me. So whatever they have to say about that is really just a mirror of your own subconscious beliefs. Take ownership of it. Work through it. Do the work. I love you guys. Thanks for hopping on. And you can do this. I have a ton of resources on YouTube. I have meditations, activations, light language attunements, frequency music. I have all kinds of things, trainings that will help you to realign your frequency when you can't find the frequency you are desiring. Don't be afraid to ask for help. All right? I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.